I have ranked many things in Project Zomboid, from weapons to armor to professions and traits, and today I am once again ranking professions or occupations in the 10 years later edition. Now this is a mod that replaces regular professions with professions that make more sense for somebody that starts 6 months later. As in, if you start 6 months later, your character probably does not identify as the burger flipper anymore, but it's now more of a hardened survivor. I would advise against using this in your normal proper basic playthrough, because this is for something more hardcore, very modded with lots and lots of zombies, giant hordes and very scarce loot. Now let's begin. First on the list we have Common Survivor. Now Common Survivor is basically a full package, what you really want. It's got 3 aiming, which is amazing start. At 3 aiming you can start using more than just shotguns. You start with 2 fitness and 2 strength, which is a huge boost because fitness and strength usually cost you a lot of points if you want to get more of them. Then you have +2 long blunt. Long blunt is a great weapon. And then you do have +2 short blade, which is one of the worst weapon traits or worst weapon skills. Well, the long blunt, in my opinion, is one of the better weapon skills. And you do have +1 sprinting, which, unless you're playing with sprinters, you don't really need that much. But if you do, then yeah, that's good. Of course, all of these things mean that you get more XP from that. You get 125% for aiming, you get 100% for long blunt, and well, short blade as well, nobody cares, and 75% for sprinting. Now, all of that means that this only costs 0 points to spend. Imagine that. To get all of this, you have to spend 0 points. You already have a very good starting character that with these bonus XP, it can get even better, especially with aiming. And the long blunt, you have basically your melee and your range weaponry already fixed. And then you have good fitness and good strength, and all of that for 0 points. In my opinion, that makes the Common Survivor pretty much one of the best out here. It's really good, well-rounded, you get all good stuff if we just discount the short blade, but in my opinion it should be S tier. Next we have Hardened Survivor. This is a man that has survived a bit longer than just the Common Survivor, and because of that it has, or he has, or she has, or they have, I don't know, you know, I don't make the rules, they have more skills. They already start with the knowledge on how to operate generators, which is big if you're playing with, let's say, extremely rare loot or something like that, where it's very hard to find a generator book. They're also desensitized. Now, I know for a lot of people, that is one of the major things. That's why they pick veteran, because they really love the ability to just never be panicked at all. In my opinion, it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're playing with ranged weapons. Panic plays a huge part. But once you get your aiming high enough, you can just outrange the zombies and never really get panicked at all, especially if you may be brave. And of course, the longer you survive in the game, the more your panic levels are gonna go down, and you know, the less panic you're gonna be anyway. Now, you start with 5 aiming here, which is already a huge boost. You have +1 axe, which to be honest, compared to aiming, it could be higher, but that's fine. You have 4 fitness, which is a huge boost, and 3 strength as well. These are very expensive traits. You start with 3 long blunt, which means it's a bit of an upgrade on the Common Survivor. You have +2 reloading, which goes well with the aiming part. Then you do have that +3 short blade, which once again, one of the worst weapon skills out there, and the +2 sprinting, which is a bit meh. So it is really powerful. You're like, for a survivor that focuses on combat, this is huge. This is a huge one. But now if you look at the cost, it is 12 points to spend. So it is costly. Now I'm comparing this from basically these ones, I'm comparing to each other, right? I'm not comparing them to basic vanilla professions, because, you know, there just cannot be a comparison. But still, you know, 12 points, it's not that bad. If you get some negative traits, you're gonna have a very powerful survivor. Still, compared to other ones on the list, it is pretty expensive. And when I say pretty expensive, I mean it is the most expensive on the list. That one kind of brings it down. The points spent in the short blade, which are not that good, but still I think it's really good. really good, well-rounded thing. I'm gonna put it up here in the A tier. So now, onwards to glory, we have a Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter, as you can imagine, focuses on aiming, does not have the sensitized though. +7 aiming and +5 reloading. If you plan on playing with ranged weapons, then yeah, you're already a god amongst men if you start with this. Then you do have +2 long blunt, so if you have to fight in melee, you got that going for yourself. You get +1 short blade. Once again, everybody gets a short blade. +2 short blunt, which is good. Short blunt is good because it's one of the most common weapons out there, common weapon skills, and you'll be able to find as many weapons as you want for that one if you really want to use it. And you do have +2 strength. You don't have fitness in this one, but you do have the +2 strength, which is decent because you're gonna have to carry a lot of ammo with you with that +7 aiming, right? Combat wise, if you compare this one to Hardened Survivor, this one is really truly focused on range, right? It's really focused on range, and if you look at the weapon cost or the point cost, it's only -4. So compared to the other one, it's not that big deal. And if you watched any of my previous rankings, you know that I value aiming and reloading very highly because it is the best skill if you want to dispatch thousands upon thousands upon thousands of zombies. It's just the best. Because of that, I have ranked police officer when I was ranking the vanilla professions that I will link up here, somewhere up there, I don't know. That I rank police officer the highest because in my opinion it's the greatest, and because of that I will also rank this one high, but not the highest. We're gonna put it up here in the A tier. I think that's proper place for it. Next on the list we have a medic. Now once again, if you watched any of my previous ranking videos, you probably know where this is gonna end. You start with +7 first aid. Now if you play this game, your goal should always be to have 0 XP in first aid. Never, ever get hit. First aid is the worst skill of them all. You should never level it up. It's just the worst. You don't want it, you don't need it, don't get hurt. Now, of course, accidents happen. You survive for months and years in the game, accidents happen. You might get scratched and all that stuff. In that case, it might help, but if you're playing with this mod, you're probably playing with giant hordes and a lot of zombies, so if you actually get hurt, chances are you'll get overwhelmed and you will never even be able to use the medic trait at all, the first aid. Now, this one can be good in multiplayer. I have heard some things about this mod and that it doesn't always work properly in multiplayer. I have never played in multiplayer, so I cannot confirm that, but on paper, having one medic in your party could be really good, especially if you're a group of less experienced players and you tend to get hurt. Then having one medic definitely is good, but for single player, I would say no, this is not the best. Also, you have light-footed, which is one of the worst skills, unfortunately, as well. And then short blade again. Jesus. All of these things combined, of course, unfortunately, leave medic straight down in the F tier. I would not suggest picking this one up, especially if you're playing single player, unless you want to roleplay. Then, dude, pick whatever you want. One thing I forgot to mention about medic, it is 2 points to use, so it's really cheap if you want to do that, but compared to Common Survivor, which is 0 points, Common Survivor is so much better. Now, onwards to glory. Next one on the list is Hermit. This is basically a survivor that knows how to survive in the wilderness. This is, if you want to ever play like wilderness survivor, just never go into cities, stay in the woods and forests and all that, that would be a perfect one for you. You start with +1 axe, which is very good for weapons. You have +3 cooking, which you will need to cook either fish, you have +3 fishing, or whatever you forge, you have +3 foraging, or whatever you trap, which is +3 trapping is what your starting stuff is. So, you know, you can then wrap this whole thing up into the cooking, and you can cook food. Unfortunately, combined with these, what I would say are good survival skills, you once again have +3 light-footed and +2 short blade, which I do not know why the person who made this puts this into every one, but those two are not good. They're not very useful. You do have +2 spear though. +2 spear is amazing. You don't really have any trades that give you spear bonus XP. So, you know, with the +2, that means you start at 100% extra XP for spear use. And we all know spears are one of the best weapons if you want to use them a lot. So, good one. When it comes to points you have to spend for this one, it is 6 points. You start with -6, so it's definitely not that bad, and for that you do get, you know, a lot of like wilderness survival skills, as I said. But what really shines for me there is that +2 spear. Now, all those survival things are great, but in my opinion, combat skills that these three bring are better. Now, this is very situational. If you plan to, you know, just survive in the wilderness, this is definitely S tier. But overall, I think this one belongs firmly in the B tier. Next on the list, we have Cook. Cooking in post-apocalypse is not that useful, you know, just the same as being a medic. You do start with +7 cooking, which I believe at this point, I don't know if it's +6 or +7, that you can actually start using rotting food in your meals. So if you have a playthrough where your food is extremely scarce, if you're using some mods that even lower that, then yes, this is really good. Maybe once again, for multiplayer, having one cook could be really good. You do have +2 farming, which is one of the not the best skills, because farming is extremely easy to level. More on that later. You do have +1 fishing, +1 trapping, so you know, you'll be able to get some food and then cook it extremely well. Because of this higher cooking skill, of course, you'll get more nutrition for everything as well. Once again, you have +2 short blade, which you get a short blade and you get a short blade and you get it. There's short blade everywhere. You get extra XP, of course, for all of these, and when you look at the points that you have to spend, it's only -2, so it's really not that bad. Still, just being mostly focused on cooking is not really gonna help you survive as easily as some of the other ones over here, but still, again, one player in multiplayer in your group to have that could be very useful. I'm gonna put it out here in the C tier. Next on the list is Farmer. As I said, I'm gonna talk about more farming later. You start with +7 farming, then you have +2 fishing, +2 foraging, +2 trapping. So these three are gonna provide you plenty of food already. The +7 farming, in my opinion, is not that important, because farming, you don't need any skill to plant. Do not need any skill, and the plants are gonna grow as long as you water them. They'll grow. Sure, some might get diseases and some might die out, but if you just plant some crops, you will have enough food to survive for a long time. And you don't really need high farming skill. And once you pick those crops up, you're gonna get a ton of XP. You really get a ton of XP to level up farming really fast if you want to. So I don't think this one is as important. I think cook in this regard is better. I think 7 cooking, to be able to cook with rotten stuff, is better than the 7 farming. Then you don't have any cooking skill to cook the things you have. And when it comes to points spent, this one actually costs -4, so it's more points spent than for cook. But then again, you do have a bit better fishing, a bit better foraging, a bit better trapping, so there is that as well. And of course, there's short blade. You guessed it, there is indeed short blade. Still, short blade or not, I think Farmer is just a bit worse than cook. I'm gonna put it out here in the C tier. Next, we have the Builder. Carpenter is one of the basic occupations that a lot of people really love and want to use. And here you start with +5 carpentry, which means you're just one skill away to be able to build stairs, which is the biggest thing most people go for, you know, to get to level 6, build stairs, be able to go up and be safe. Of course, then, you know, you get to level 7, then you can get level 3 walls and all that stuff as well. But you're very close to this. You start with 125% XP. And if you really want to work on this, you know, Builder is going to be great if you want to build. You also start with +3 strength, which is pretty huge because strength and fitness are usually the most costly of traits. And you do have +2 short blunt. Thank God there is no short blade here. Short blunt is a very easy to use weapon, and you're gonna find a lot of weapons for this skill. And of course, you also know how to operate generators. So if you want to build a base, this is a perfect starting occupation. And when it comes to points to spend, it is only -4, so it's not that big at all. You don't really have to spend more. And I think this is a really good starting place if you are a bit less experienced. You go, you build that base, you feel safe, and then you start exploring out there. You're gonna have, you have a bit of a short blunt there. You're gonna have extra strength. yeah, combat is gonna be a bit easier because of that, and you can slowly start learning more about this crazy post-apocalypse where you live in. And because of that, I do think Builder deserves to be higher. I'm gonna put it straight up here in the B tier. It's gonna be above Hermit. Next on the list, we have Thief. Lots of people love Burglar from the base game, and Thief is an upgrade on that. You start with the Burglar thing, so that means you can hotwire cars. That means you can open windows easier without breaking them. Then you do have +2 light-footed, which is not very good. Again, you have +4 short blade, which is definitely not very good. You do have +2 sneaking, which is also one of the worst skills. Sneaking is, to be honest, the trap skill. It's the trap for new players because they don't realize that it's in 99% of the time, it is better to go and kill the zombies in front of you than sneak around them. It is in 99% better. It's just better to fight. You do have +2 short blunt, so you do got that going for you. And most importantly, you have +2 nimble, which is actually huge. I think nimble is big. No other occupation here gives you actually nimble XP, which means you start with +2. That means 100% extra XP, which is big because nimble is one of the most important combat skills. It allows you to backpedal and fight easily, so you don't need to, constantly turn and run and fight and turn and run and fight. You can just backpedal, and the faster you level up your nimble if you play in melee, the better. Now when it comes to skill cost, you have -6 points to spend, so it is a bit more expensive, but you get the Burglar things, you can hotwire cars, you have that nimble, which I do value quite a lot. Unfortunately, there is a lot of skills here that kind of bring this one down in value. The light-footed, the short blade, the sneaking especially. Still, I believe that especially that nimble thing puts this up. It gives it more value. I'm gonna put it out here in the B tier. Last but certainly not the least, we have the scrap mechanic. Scrap mechanic's got a lot going for it. You know how to operate generators. You're an amateur mechanic, which means you can fix a lot of cars, and you start with +3 electrical, which in itself is not that big. I believe it allows you to move electrical ovens at that point, and +4 mechanics. +3 electrical, +4 mechanics means you can also hotwire cars, just like the Burglar before. You can do the same thing even though it's not written over here, but you need 1 electrical and 2 mechanics to hotwire cars, so you do have that as well. Generators, car repair, and car hotwiring in this one scrap mechanic. Now, of course, being +4 mechanics, you get the +125% XP boost, which is amazing because it's gonna allow you to get to level 6 that much faster. At level 6, you can then steal the car parts from other cars, and by that I mean engine parts, and repair your car engine, which is the big thing that you want in mechanics, level 6. And you do have +4 metalworking, which is gonna allow you to fix your car trunk and stuff like that with metal plates. And of course, if you want to, you can also do some metal walls and stuff like that if you really want that. And you do have +4 short blunt, which is gonna be your combat choice over here. You do have +2 long blunt as well, so you have that as well. So blunt really works well over here with scrap mechanic, and I think this one is kind of a low-key really good. And if you look at the points that you need to spend, it's only -4. It's less than the Burglar, but you get so much more from this one. It's not even close. Sure, Burglar has nimble, but this one gets the same and much more. Now, for combat, it really kind of puts you into the short blunt and the long blunt, sure, but combat switching to something else is not that problematic. You do start with 3 electrical, 4 mechanics, 4 metalworking, so you have all of that going for you, which is really good, especially if you want to get a car early on and then use that car in the long term. I think scrap mechanic is one of the better ones up here. I'm not sure if I value more than some of these more combat-focused survivor things, but I definitely think it should be up here in the A tier. Now, let me know, what do you think? What would you put in the S tier? What would you put in the F tier? What do you personally value the most out of these? And thank you for watching.